Now that you got your bounty of Dungeness crab, the next step is to clean and cook them, and in today's video, I'm going to share 7 tips to help you cook the perfect Dungeness crab. What is going on, you outdoor mavericks? Welcome back to the channel. When it comes to Dungeness crabbing, I look at crabbing in 3 phases. You have the first part, which is the planning phase, then you have the crabbing phase, and then the cleaning and cooking phase. And today we're going to focus on the cooking and cleaning phase of Dungeness crabbing to help you at home cook the perfect Dungeness crab. Now the first tip, which is the most critical important, is to clean and split your crabs. There are a couple different ways you can actually cook Dungeness crabs. You can cook them whole, you can clean and split them, but you could also steam them. However, the best way to do them is to clean them, split them, make sure you get all the junk off the legs, and cook the legs and boil them in boiling water. So when it comes to cooking your crabs, you don't want to cook them whole with all the innards. They have toxins and acids in there, and that'll leach into the crab meat itself if you cook the crabs whole, and they're just not going to taste as good. Plus, you don't want those toxins and acids to be digested when you eat the crab. And when it comes to cleaning and splitting your crabs, you can use one of the crab crackers. I'll leave a link in the description below. This is a really easy mechanism to use on a table or a tray to split your crabs, and it's also a measuring stick, so if you carry it with you on the boat, you have an extra measuring stick with you at all times. Now the next tip is to cook your crabs outside. Get a nice propane canister, a nice pot, and a nice cooking mechanism set up that's going to have a lot of BTU and a lot of heat output that's going to be able to boil your water nice and quickly. The other advantage of cleaning and cooking your crabs outside is you're going to make a mess outside, not inside, as well as stink up the place that you live in. And after cleaning and cooking my crabs inside the very first time, I learned a valuable lesson. Don't do that inside, do all those activities outside. Now the next tip is to have a cooking and cleaning assembly line. So whether it's the bucket of crabs that you're bringing over to your cleaning station, having an area or a cleaning space where you're going to clean and have the crabs and the legs, but also get the gizzards and all the junk off of them, but also a bucket to throw away your shells and all the gizzards and stuff that you don't want to cook in, as well as a tray to put the legs that are ready to go into the pot. And having an assembly line really helps the organization of how you're going to cook, especially if you have, say, 20, maybe even up to 30 crabs that you have to cook in one sitting. The assembly line system will help make it super easy and make the cooking process seamless. Now the next tip when it comes to cooking your crabs is to salt your water. Make sure you got plenty of salt when you're putting tons of legs into the boiling pot of water. It's just like when you salt your pasta water. You want to make sure you got enough kosher salt in your water when you're cooking your crabs. The standard recommendation is about a 1/4 cup of salt per a quart of water. So if you're cooking in a huge pot, you're going to need a lot of salt. Now you can vary the salt amount depending on your preference, but you definitely want to make sure you've got enough. You can undersalt a little bit, but you can also oversalt really easily. So play around with the amount of salt that you have in your pot of water. But regardless, you want to make sure that you've got your water salted before you put your crabs in and get the water up to a boil. Now the next tip is to boil your crabs. Now there's a couple different ways you can actually cook crabs in general. One is to boil them, and the other is to steam the crabs. And I've found over the years that it's better to boil them than to steam them because you get better flavor, you get more salt into the crabs. They just cook better when they're boiled versus steamed. You just don't get as good of a salty and sweet flavor of the Dungeness crabs when you steam them versus boiling them. So make sure you got a big pot, it's boiling nice and hot, and then you've got it ready to go in your crab assembly system before you start cooking. And then the next cooking tip is to cook the crabs for 15 minutes in boiling water. Now you can go up to 20, but 15 is the optimal amount of time that you actually need to boil the crab legs. What I found is if you cook them under 15 minutes, they're just not quite done or the right color on the outside to let you know that they're done. 15 minutes is the perfect amount of time, so have your tray ready to go and your big tongs to take them out of the boiling water and onto a tray to cool down before you start to process and prep the crab to eat it. Then the final cooking tip is to cook the crab in batches. Now this is going to depend on how big of a pot of water and how much water you have in your pot to cook your crabs. When I'm cooking and boiling my crabs, I don't like to fill the pot all the way with crab legs because sometimes when you have too much in there, it's harder to get the water to be boiling the entire 15 minutes that you want to cook them. So depending on the size of the pot of water and how much water you've got in there is going to help you determine how many crab legs that you can put in the water when you're cooking them. And then next, as a bonus tip, you want to make sure you got crab crackers ready to go to crack those legs and get the succulent Dungeness crab meat out. and then get your garlic butter ready for some delicious and warm Dungeness crab. And there you have it, the 7 tips to help you clean, prepare, and cook Dungeness crabs perfectly. Hope you guys got some great information and tips out of today's video, but also head over to the video section on the channel to check out different baits tips, gear tips, locations to go crabbing, and more. So thank you guys for watching today's crabbing tips video. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing if you love crabbing tips, and other outdoor content. And don't forget, and as always you guys, the outdoors is a gift. Go crabbing with others.